Hello friend, today we are going to discuss about what is difference between Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. Firstly, we need to know what is the difference between of Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. Before knowing difference between Docker Swarm and Kubernetes, we need to know about why we use the Docker Swarm. In my previous videos, you have seen that how can we create a Docker, how can we access Docker service, how can create a Docker file, how can create images. But we need to know that if we have a multiple, you can say around 1,000 container, so how can we manage that? So in that case, we need Docker Swarm or Kubernetes. So Docker Swarm is developed by Docker and Kubernetes developed by Google. You can say if you will see that how many market shares of both of them, so you can say that around 90% market share of Kubernetes and rest are Docker Swarm. There is a reason because Kubernetes used for multiple container services, such as we have a Docker container, we have a Rocket container. So Kubernetes support all of them, but Docker Swarm support only Docker container. So that's the reason that Kubernetes is more popular. And upcoming video we will see about Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. In my opinion, I think every person should know at least two tools if we are going to make our career in the container based microservices. So we need to know about both. It is accepted that most of the company preferred Kubernetes, but we need option. So that's why we need to learn both of them. So upcoming video we will see both of them very deeply. So in this video we are going to discuss about what is difference between Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. So let's begin. Firstly, features, installation and cluster configuration. Installation and cluster configuration. Kubernetes installation is complicated, but once set up, the cluster is very strong. If we are using Kubernetes, why Kubernetes is popular, you know that the reason is that the manageability is very good in the Kubernetes. There are some complicated steps, but it is very strong to manage, and it is very strong to, you can say, in purpose of clustering, and you can say another features also in the Kubernetes, which is highly recommend to use in the Kubernetes. If you are talking about Docker Swarm, installation is very simple, but cluster is not very strong. In that case, we need to manual activity to do in the cluster in Docker Swarm. That's why it is not very strong. But it has a process very simple. If we are talking about GUI means graphic user interface. Kubernetes have a GUI interface dashboard, but in the Docker Swarm there is no GUI interface. It is completely command based tool. Scalability, high scalable and scales fast. In the Kubernetes, high scalable and scales fast. In the Docker Swarm, highly scalable and scales 5 times faster than Kubernetes. Docker Swarm have a feature that it is 5 times fast in the scalability features. Auto scaling, Kubernetes can do auto scaling, but Docker Swarm cannot do auto scaling. You will have to use any third party tool to do auto scaling. Load balancing, manual intervention needed for load balancing traffic between different container in different ports. When we learn about Kubernetes, so there is a we work on the port based features where we create multiple container in ports, and Kubernetes directly does not talk with container. Kubernetes always talk with their ports, and ports give the command to container to create and manage all these things. So that's why if you are talking to connectivity between two container, so if you have a multiple container on single port, so you can connect. your container can connect together. But if you have a multiple container on different ports, so you can't connect. You will have to do manual configuration for load balancing. If we are using Docker Swarm, so Docker Swarm does auto load balancing of traffic between container in the clustering. If you are talking about rolling updates and rollback, can deploy rolling updates and does automatic rollback. Kubernetes have a deploying rollback features and rolling updates. Rollback features is means if you have made some changes and that changes not does not work properly, so you can roll back your feature as was previous. So Kubernetes has these features, but if you are talking about Docker Swarm, can deploy rolling updates but not automatic rollbacks. Means Docker Swarm have not automatic rollback features. Data volumes can share storage volume only with other container in same pod. Means container can share their storage volume in the same pod container, but if they have a different pod and they have a different container in different pod, so they can't share their volume with different pods container. But if we are talking about Docker Swarm, so can share storage volume with any other containers in their network. Logging and monitoring. Inbuilt tool for logging and monitoring. Kubernetes have an inbuilt tool and you can set it for logging and monitoring. But Docker Swarm have not inbuilt tool. You will have to what? You will have to use third party tool just like a ELK should be used for logging and monitoring tool for Docker Swarm. So these are the main difference between about the Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. So let's move on the what is the pros and cons between both of them. So let's move. We need to know about that also. If we are talking about Docker Swarm pros, it is an open source, lightweight install process, fast and simple to set up, integrate with Docker ecosystem, compose, registry, etc. If we are talking about cons, function is limited by Docker API, limited option for networking configuration, only work with Docker runtime. If we are talking about Kubernetes pros, it is also open source, run well on any infrastructure. If you are talking about Docker and Rocket, easy and powerful service abstraction, pod, replica set, service, replica control, etc. Support multiple container runtimes. It support multiple container runtime in the same time. Cons, complex to install and configuration. Yes, it is something complex to install and configuration, but it is very powerful. I have used it. Incompatible with existing Docker CLI and Compose tool. So these are the pros and cons of Dockers and Kubernetes. I think you must be know about both of them, that what is difference between of them and what is pros and cons between both of them. I hope this video is helpful for you. So please like our channel, hit the bell icon and subscribe our channel to get more update first. Thanks for watching.